SHA-256 was developed by the U.S. government National Security Agency. So SHA-256 was developed by the NSA. Our very own United States government created this secure hash algorithm. Who would have thought?
Oh, thank God you woke me. I was having a terrible dream. This problem has been speared in the head, hauled on the deck, and sliced up the guts. Mathematically speaking. I am the richest man in a town of 32,000 people.
And so, the equation was solved.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Urban FinTech at the G Spot Studios channel, where we try to make finance and technology sexy. I'm your girl, G. And man, oh man, do we have a big show for you today. I am deciphering 20 to 25 cryptocurrencies from the Simpsons Frinkcoin math problem that was posted. Let's go. All right, so as I mentioned previously, I feel like I have deciphered at least 30 to 50 cryptocurrencies from the Frinkcoin episode alone on The Simpsons. And so today is going to be the biggest decipher so far. It is the actual problem that is presented, the math equation that is presented in this particular episode. And now I'm no mathematician. Most of this is just based on some research. There is one guy on YouTube. Let's see, what is his name? It's So You Want to Crypto. He has 2.1 thousand subscribers, and he does a cryptocurrency formula where he walks through the steps of this particular problem. And it's basically like a pun or like a double entendre. And so I have some notes here. I'll be referring to them. I'll try to keep you all abreast of everything as I give you some illustrations and visuals of the different things that I'm talking about. So essentially, this problem is a formal logic of proof, and it's trying to prove something. So it's saying that there exists some Bitcoin, some Litecoin, some Filecoin, and some Dogecoin if and only if SHA-256 and the RSA is correct and the SHA-256 hash algorithm is secure. So that E that's there is not, some people say, oh, that represents Ethereum, but in this case, it's actually a math problem that is saying, hey, this is talking about the proof of existence of some things. So if the algorithm is secure, the markets won't crash, these cryptocurrencies will exist in the future. That's essentially what it's saying. Now, there's a lot of different letters and different little symbols on here, so we'll try to talk about some of them. And even my sort of idea on how they even possibly relate to some of the other cryptocurrencies that is sort of being alluded to here. This hash or algorithm is secure if and only if the RSA is correct. So, again, Ethereum not a part of the problem. The E is the need to prove the existence. So it's kind of like a double entendre the way I look at this math problem, because I feel as though in my decipher that there are many representations of different cryptocurrencies within even one symbol. And so in doing my research, one of the things that I stumbled across was the SHA-256. So again, it's an algorithm. It's supposed to be secure. It's one step up of some previous algorithms that were used to secure cryptographic security measures. And so it says here that SHA-256 is used for cryptographic security. This hashing algorithm is considered extremely secure as it produces hash values that are irreversible and unique. SHA-256 was developed by the U.S. government National Security Agency. So SHA-256 was developed by the NSA. Our very own United States government created this secure hash algorithm. Who would have thought? And so my first sort of dig at this, I'm like, oh, this means Ethereum is not going to exist. And I'll be honest, I don't hold any Ethereum because in my mind, I feel like that is going to be the cryptocurrency that doesn't last. That is the AOL of the online world that we had ushered in. Um, and so I think it is going to crash and burn for the sake of what we're going to talk about today. So again, all of this is kind of a double entendre in my mind, and the definition of a double entendre is a figure of speech or a particular way of wording that is devised to have two meanings. In this case, I think it has even more than two meanings, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And one of these meanings is typically obvious, while the other often conveys a message that would be too socially unacceptable or offensive to state directly. Now, a pun is kind of similar. It has the double meaning, but it has it with a bit of a joke. And so this cryptocurrency problem does have a little bit of a pun to it. And so we'll explore that a little bit more in a few minutes. All right, so the proof is to be demonstrated. This is what the math problem is saying, that you have to demonstrate and prove this. And it says where A and P do not equal 0. And the pun here is that A&P went bankrupt in 2015. And so it went to 0, essentially. So essentially, A&P went bankrupt in 2015. It was a grocery chain, excuse me. And I'll give you a little bit of background on A&P. So A&P was where local mom and pop stores were limited with selections that they had to offer at the time. They had higher prices and non-standard packaging. And so this paved the way for national chains like A&P to swoop in and dominate the grocery industry. They offered a variety of one-stop shop for meats, dairy, etc. So prior to that, you would have to go to, a butcher to get your meat. You have the milkman come to the house and hopefully drop off milk and not something else. Wink, wink. But they sort of capitalized on and monetized on this grocery chain, all one-stop shop kind of business model. And you'll see essentially Walmart is kind of copied that model in a sense, but with their retail chain. So an antitrust suit was also filed against A&P, claiming that they had become a food monopoly because it controlled all aspects of manufacturing. So they would manufacture their own products, retailing and wholesaling. So they were essentially able to kind of cut out some of the middleman. So those national known chains and different product labels that we would see, Kraft or Campbell's, they were able to manufacture their own products and then became competitors with those larger places. But the movement lost steam in the late 30s when the economy started to pick up after the Great Depression. So in 1936, it adopted the self-serve supermarket concept. And again, Walmart has received a great deal of criticism for many of its techniques, such as hard bargaining with suppliers, something that A&P also did. And most of that was started back in the 20s, where Walmart kind of got this idea from A&P groceries. And so they did these things to reduce their costs. And they also weren't a publicly traded company. So they were strongly anti-union, A&P was, and again, some of those similarities we find within Walmart. So the company's focus was largely in extracting money from vendors rather than focusing on customer experience and satisfaction. And we know that with DeFi, one of the things that sort of is the motto is to allow people to really have better experiences, be able to be their own bankers, to kind of cut out the middleman, etc. And so to me, there's some similarities with that as it relates to A&P and kind of what they went through. So in 2011, Sam Martin, A&P's former CEO, announced his turnaround plan to bring the chain back to the forefront of the industry. His 5 steps included installing a strong management team, strengthening liquidity, reducing structural and operating costs, improving the value proposition for customers, and enhancing customers' in-store experience, and that's according to Forbes. And that alone sounds just like what cryptocurrency wants to do, right? All right, so where AMP went wrong is that their profit was declared as dividends to satisfy the income needs of the trust and heirs. That trust word is huge in crypto. So the loss of capital led to AMP to fall behind its competitors who invested in larger modern supermarkets. So the Whole Foods, the Trader Joe's, those kind of arose and took over because they were more modernized and offered some of the things, healthy eating options, alternative meat, and such. And so AMP, what they did was they placed too much emphasis on private label products. So again, their own products. And that rise was fueled by it being able to use and stock its stores with private label brands, brands that aren't national but made specifically for one store, like Costco's Kirkland brand, for example. So AMP made a lot of these brands in-house, which helped reduce costs and price. But with the rise of television and advertising, people started demanding nationally known brands, which AMP carried very few of because, again, this was all about them monetizing, manufacturing, and capitalizing on their own products and their own businesses. So the lack of brand name products caused customers to begin to seek other supermarkets. So because AMP stopped growing, a rising percentage of its workers were making higher wages due to their seniority, and AMP's competitors weren't dealing with this issue because they were rapidly expanding, thus having fewer workers with higher rank. And AMP tried to address this issue by operating its stores with fewer employees, resulting in long lines at checkouts and empty shelves, and two issues no customers wanted to deal with were the lines and the empty shelves. And you remember that because AMP owned several grocery stores around the country. Although those grocery stores kept their own names, AMP was sort of the franchisee of those smaller grocery stores. And they had a certain smell to them. It was dim. It was old school. There was one or two cashiers. They were old as hell. They looked unhappy. It just wasn't a good fit. And so that was the beginning of their demise. So AMP operated 15,000 grocery stores at one time, and we know that there are probably over about 20,000 cryptocurrencies in circulation worldwide at this time. And the top 20 cryptos account for nearly 90% of the total market. So that's just something to keep in mind because AMP had these 15,000 grocery stores. They went bankrupt. And so cryptocurrency market and circulation has over 20,000. And at some point, 90% of them will go obsolete. So the ones that solve real world problems, I think, will have a seat at the table. And so the conclusion to this problem from The Simpsons was that the proof could not be demonstrated, which essentially says that, oh, yeah, this stuff could crash and this hash might not be that secure. All right, so one of the things that I came across was that if you look carefully at the problem, you'll see this little AMP, the little squiggly line in between the A and P. It's supposed to represent the and symbol, but it kind of looks more like an infinity symbol. And so for me, that infinity symbol represents near protocol, and it also represents internet computer. Because remember, I told you these are double entendres. So we got two cryptocurrencies so far that we're looking at within this problem. So a little bit about internet computer is it is a cipher space as Cloud 3.0. So systems and services often break and are easily hacked. This is what comes from Internet Computer's website. This is internetcomputer.org. Big corporations run the foundations, giving them control. Developing new systems and services costs too much. Today, social media corporations own our current content when we should own social media. That's what they're saying. So if social media is in control, they're saying the people should own social media. Kind of similar to what they were saying with AMP and the cause of its demise. So Internet Computer, it's a blockchain. It's so powerful that it plats the role of Cloud 3.0. You can build almost anything without traditional IT. So you get smart contract software that pays for its own computations. Users don't have to. Smart contract software that users can interact with without wallets. And that's huge because right now you need wallets to do anything with your crypto. You get scalable smart contracts that directly serve user experiences. And Internet Computer is ran through Definity Foundation, which is a Switzerland based not for profit that boasts itself as the world's largest team of cryptographers. And we've heard the word cryptographers in this particular Frinkcoin episode because Burns decided to gather a bunch of them together to try to take down cryptocurrency, to try to bankrupt Frinkcoin. Okay, so you see how kind of some of this is all kind of playing together. If you're still with me, because this is rabbit hole energy. All right, so that's Internet Computer. Near Protocol can be wrapped up in there as well because it kind of has that infinity symbol associated with its ticker logo. So we're still on the AMP aspect of this formula. And the reason why I really looked into this AMP is because API 3 is the Web3 economy, and that is a cryptocurrency that you can invest in. And in fact, it is doing quite well. But it's one of those things that isn't talked about a lot. And so I think that API, or excuse me, API 3 is one of those cryptocurrencies that is alluded to in this Frinkcoin episode mathematic problem. And so a little bit about API 3, because we know AMP went to zero based on this math problem, but API 3 is at 3. It's not at 0. So there, the correlation of one going to 0 and being worth nothing, and API 3 being the new Web3 economy, to me is sort of that juxtaposition of the two. I'm thinking, there might be something to this AP thing, and I was looking for cryptocurrencies that kind of have that AP theme to it, and API 3 is what I came across. And again, I'm also invested in it. So API 3's data feeds, or DApp APIs, get their data directly from the source without relying on third-party middleman. And remember, this is kind of what caused AMP to go to zero, because they were able to streamline and not have to deal with the middleman as much. All right, so the DAPI aggregation contract resides on the same chain as the consumer DApp, meaning the data is never bridged over and exposed to bridge exploits. This maximizes the reliability and transparency of our feeds, resulting in safer DeFi for everyone. So this is what API 3 sort of boasts in terms of what they can provide. So these are like trustworthy messengers, is what they're saying, the way this works, that fetch data from reliable sources. Imagine them as diligent reporters who go directly to the primary source, like a stock market or a weather station, to get accurate information. So there's no middleman. So unlike other systems, these DApp APIs don't rely on any middleman. They don't pass the data through multiple hands, which reduces the risk of errors or tampering. It's like getting news directly from the horse's mouth. Again, this is API 3. This is a digital currency we're saying. So we've said we got Near Protocol, we've got Internet Computer, and now we got API 3 as the 3 cryptocurrencies we've deciphered from this math problem so far. Aggregation contract. Think of this as a smart contract, a digital agreement that collects all the data from different sources. It's like a librarian organizing books from various shelves into one neat stack. Okay. Other thing that the API 3 is known for is same chain. So the aggregation contract lives on the same blockchain where your DeFi app. So it's like a crypto wallet or lending platform, just like how that operates. It's like having your bank and ATM in the same building. There's no need to cross bridges or tunnels. So remember we talked about AMP, everything one-stop shop. You can go there. You don't have to go across the bridge or the tunnel to go to the meat market or the butcher. you can do it all in-house at that particular grocery store. So the same grocery chain, everything exists. All right, so then there's no bridge exploits. So bridges can sometimes be vulnerable to attacks, but with DAPIs or DAPIs, the data never leaves the blockchain. It's like having a secure vault right in your house instead of sending valuables across town. Okay. And then the last thing it boasts on its blockchain is the reliability and transparency. So by going straight to the source and staying on the same chain, DAPIs or DAPIs ensure accurate and transparent data. It's like having a crystal clear window to see what's happening in the financial world. All right. So the example of all of this, if we want to kind of like just summarize it, is let's say you're building a decentralized lending app. Instead of relying on third party data providers who might make mistakes or manipulate data, so looking at the grocery chain, relying on those larger grocery brands who can skyjack their prices, etc., or in the case of A&P grocery store, they were able to manufacture their own goods and price it at higher price points. Um, this particular third party provider who makes mistakes or manipulates data, your app uses API 3 DAPIs. These DAPIs fetch interest rates directly from central banks or financial institutions. And since there are no middleman or risky bridges involved, your users can trust the interest rates displayed in your app. It's like having a reliable financial advisor who always gives you the accurate information. So there's nobody trying to get over, there's nobody price gouging, which we're seeing currently right now within this inflation of a world that we're living in at our current grocery markets when we go grocery shopping. So it's very, very, very interesting. Now, one of the other things that I want to talk about is just sort of these letters that they have here. And I don't have my computer, so I'm trying to go off memory. I have my phone. I do have a screenshot of the math problem, so I may like refer to that here and there. But let's just kind of talk about some of the things that were happening during the exposure of this math problem being solved on the Frinkcoin episode. So Wayland realized that the formula that the cryptographers put together that would take forever to solve had been solved, with the pun of what was there about API grocery going bankrupt. But while Wayland and Burns were running down the street and kind of excited that, oh, they finally figured out how to kind of bankrupt Professor Frink and make Frinkcoin go to zero or be obsolete, there were things going on in the background. So one of the things you saw were a sign that had gas in the back. And in my mind, that gas represents either two things or both, because again, double entendre. So that represents XRP, because XRP, as we now know, especially in 2024, more and more, it is being used as gas. And so some of its use cases, while it has many and is growing in different directions, is to, as Ripple establishes these partnerships and relationships with different companies, we're finding that the XRP token will be used to facilitate fees, transaction fees, and used as a gas token in that sense. Ethereum, we already know the high-ass gas prices that come with Ethereum. So that could be something there. But again, my take is that Ethereum isn't a part of this equation, and it won't be a part of the future. But we'll get to that when we get to it. The other thing that was happening was there was a moon that was lit up, illuminated, right? And to me, that represents Luna. And I know how people feel about Luna, Terra Luna, classic, because it really was one of the favorite coins, I think, by a lot of crypto holders, and it crashed. I mean, crashed, honey, below zero, like just went all the way left. And I do think that there is potential for it to grow again. It is still doing a lot of things now where it's stabilizing and growing, and just this past week has done well in terms of percentage gains too. So I think Luna has a comeback, and I don't know if that has anything to do with somehow, pegging it to Tether, uh, stablecoin. But there is something there around this moon. It just so happened in the middle of the night. And for me, lunar, moon, you know, there. And so the other thing that was happening was there were all these spotlights that were shining down on this math problem board. And as we know, in any city, there aren't spotlights in the middle of the street. You have street lights, but these were actual spotlights, like lights, camera, action, a stage. Okay, so in some regard, this entire thing, if it does fail, can be a staged event. But in another regard, it could mean that the spotlights represent another token, which is Illuminate Finance. Um, and I'm not sure if they actually have a token, but they are within the crypto spectrum. So Illuminate, what they do is they find all the best fixed rate protocols for you, and that gathers their principal tokens for you and aggregates their yield into one place for you. And so we just were talking about aggregating data with API 3. Illuminate Finance happens to do something very similar to that. And so again, something to that. And so right now we've named Near, API 3, Internet Computer. We've talked about Filecoin, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, and Litecoin because that's a part of the first part of the problem. And we've talked about XRP. We've talked about Ethereum with the gas sign that was in the background. We've talked about Luna, Terra Luna Classic, and now Illuminate Finance. So those are what we're working with so far. And we're going to go on to even more cryptos that are deciphered from this simple math problem. So I'm one to almost use every single symbol in this math problem and equate it to some kind of cryptocurrency or a crypto platform, something around this ecosystem of cryptography and finance. And so if you look at SHA-256, within that there are three letters, SHA. And in my deciphering, I take those to mean the S representing solo because it is under the ISO 20022 tokens. The H represent, or excuse me, the S again, double entendre, solo as well as Solana. The H represents H bar, which is Hedera, and the A, it represents so much because if we go down to the actual rectangle that has the problem solved, we're going to talk a little bit more about the A's. And so we get those three little dots there. And as you know, the Ripple symbol has kind of like the three, kind of like little dots going on with it. And so for me, that represents Ripple or XRP sort of being this bridge that is able to liquidate and be the currency of choice, cryptocurrency of choice to use to transact fees and to do any kinds of payments, cross-border payments, you name it, tokenizing the world. That would be sort of the leading cryptocurrency. Yes, I'm an XRP Army fanatic, and yes, going strong, X Army for life. And so the next one you'll see is that E crossed out. And again, my mind, Ethereum won't be here for long. Somehow it's going to have some issues, go bankrupt, be found to be a commodity, a security, whatever. But it's not going to house or be a part of the future of cryptocurrency and finance and decentralized finance. So E crossed out. Ethereum doesn't exist. However, there is an A within there. So if you look at that E, it looks a little bit different from the one at the top where it says prove the existence is secure. That one looks more a little bit like a X. So it's just these slight variations of the way the letters are written. And I know part of it is to make it seem like two different people wrote it. But, there's always something to some of this stuff that we speculate on. So the A's for me represent again the API 3. It also represents Algorand. It represents Avalanche. And no ether exists. Okay. And Avalanche is interesting because I do have some information on them as well. All right, so before we decipher that avalanche part or tie that into one of these other currencies, we'll sort of go through the layout of what they have here. So next would be the B that they have there that represents Bitcoin, is what most people think. But I think it also represents, again, double entendre, banned protocol, Bitcoin, and possibly Bitcoin Cash. BAM protocol is a secure, scalable, blockchain agnostic, decentralized oracle. So, BAM protocol is a cross chain data oracle platform that aggregates and connects real world data, which is huge. It's going to be huge in Web3, and APIs to smart contracts. And we've already been talking about APIs. AP is all over this math problem. And so, again, some synergy around that. The next up is what people consider to be Litecoin. And although it may represent Litecoin, I don't know if I see Litecoin really having a future either. I see Litecoin going to zero. I see Ethereum going to zero. I see Filecoin going to zero. What I do think this one represents, because now this L looks a little bit more like a C, I think it represents Cardano and Cosmos. And I don't think I have to do too much explanation. Those are pretty well known top cryptocurrencies out here in the space. And so you can do your own research on that. But that C also kind of looks like a T, and it could be Tezos. And I can see that. And as well as with the previous, the first, well, I won't even go there. I don't even want to confuse you. So Tezos, I do believe, has a future. I know California is using it within their DMV. So I think that as it picks up more utility, it'll be used a little more. And I think it's slept on, in my opinion. I do think the D represents Dogecoin. And so that's something to consider. Also, going back to the C, where it was Cardano, Cosmos, and I said also Tezos, that T like symbol can also represent Turbo token, which I think is going to be a huge meme coin in the future. So not only Doge, but also Turbo will probably be the top two meme coins, in my opinion, that make it in the future. And now looking at this F, it does not represent Filecoin for me. I think that will be one of the ones that goes bankrupt or goes to zero. The F for me represents Flare token and Phantom. And we know that Flare is a part of the ISO 20022 tokens. And so it also is launched on Avalanche. So it says here the network uses Avalanche consensus along with proof of stake in order to ensure network security. This is what Flare uses. And validators are required to stake a minimum amount in Flare. So Flare and Avalanche are in cahoots. They're in bed together. Again, it's all about them using Avalanche for security. I do believe that the tokens that I named are going to be some of the tokens that we see in the future. I believe there will be 30 to 50 based on what I feel like I've deciphered from this cryptocurrency episode. There's still a couple of more that I have to decipher. This math problem was weighing on me because I'm like, how am I going to get this into a video? And I hope this makes sense. I don't have my laptop, so I feel like that makes it even that much more difficult. But I didn't want to wait any longer. I really wanted to get this video out. So again, the cryptocurrencies that we've named are Near Protocol, API 3, Internet Computer, Filecoin, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Litecoin. In my opinion, Filecoin, Litecoin will cease to exist. We did name Ethereum. In my opinion, Ethereum will cease to exist. We also named Solo, Solana, Hedera. We've also talked about Ripple, XRP, Luna, Terra Classic Luna, or Terra Luna Classic, Illuminate Finance, Algorand, Avalanche, Tezos, Bands Protocol, Bitcoin, Cash. We've talked about Cardano, Cosmos, and Flare and Phantom tokens. And so that is my little breakdown. If I feel like I get something else, I'll come back with another video and expand upon it as much as I can. But for now, just know that the United States government created the SHA-256. There is something around some kind of crash or grid failure that keeps permeating in our space, around the world even, some global thing that could happen. And so, yeah, there is some synchronicities when it comes to how each of these things kind of play into one of the other. It could be, again, a staged event with the lights that are glaring down on this cryptocurrency problem. But I think that if this is the future, if Web3 is to tie in finance and economics and tokenizing real world assets and really essentially everything, then I think some of these cryptocurrencies are the ones to be looking at. Okay, so I appreciate you watching this crazy video, and always appreciate your support. I got 99 subscribers, and I know for you that's nothing. I mean, it's really nothing, like a drop in the bucket. But if I can get 100, that'll be great. And I never ask for likes or subscribes because to me it's just weird. But I'm asking you today. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.